Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm just going to announce to you that my Substack, which I must have, 400 or 500 articles at this point over the last several years. I started it when I first got permanently suspended just before I got permanently suspended from Twitter. Could tell things were going south real quick. And so I started the Substack, and it's just been called the Changizi Newsletter. It's sort of been my free X newsletter. But I have plans to make it broader and wider and be potentially a different kind of animal over time. Still having the same kinds of free content nearly every day or every other day like it's been, but potentially having other kinds of content as well. So it has changed names. You can still get to it with markchangizi.substack.com, but it's also changed name to Loof Wired, L-O-O-F Wired. Now, the fun of being aloof, and being aloof is crucial. I've talked about in previous videos the importance of being aloof. Be aloof, save the world. And I remember, a friend of mine, a colleague of mine in graduate school, we had talked about aloof, and he said, "I'm aloof. Loofs of America unite." It was sort of funny at the time. So the idea of loof is well, I'm aloof. So there's loof wired. The idea is that you need to wire yourself to be aloof, because this was one of the main keys for those of us that didn't fall into mass hysteria, that didn't fall into collective hysteria, didn't fall into groupthink, that decided that we all had to work together to save the world with our ingenious scheme. If you were connected in the wrong ways, if you sat and bathed in the CBC, NPR network, I would have fallen into the same groupthink everybody else did. But I was either instinctually aloof. I had told my students for years as a scientist, as an academic, as a professor, stay aloof. I had myself tried to stay scientifically aloof so that I can keep on moving as a theorist from field to new field, because there's basically no chance of me having another seminal discovery once I've had one in a field. I need to move on. And I'm not going to move on if I'm not socially aloof. But I didn't really plan on being aloof per se politically, although I kind of was, just my instincts were that way. But I think more important than civil liberties, supposedly lots of folks on the left revered civil liberties. Libertarians and lots of folks on the right revered civil liberties, but when it happened in March of 2020, all of these supposed leaders that I had followed on Twitter and elsewhere just in lockstep said we all have to lock down. All the civil liberties talk was just talk when it mattered. Much more important than a robust appreciation of civil liberties is, I believe, being aloof. And being aloof and decentralization go together. The whole point is to avoid centralization, avoid top-down control, avoid groupthink. And the opposite of that is to be decentralized. And individually, we all have to be aloof so that the network acts in a decentralized manner. So be wired for being aloof. Loof Wired is now where you go, www.loofwired.com or markchangizi.substack.com. Find the same content over time. There will be shifts, loofwired.com. That was your Science Moment.